Right, the nice folks at Need a Car are back this season, serving up a collection of the country's coolest cars. And with 2,500 horsepower and 6-second passes, this week's is a bit more brutal than most. Meet Karl Boniface and Nitro Flashback. A grand scheme that all started innocently enough. Rewind 16 years, and Karl was campaigning a 68 Camaro in the super gas class and looking to step things up a bit.
The Nitro thing had always been in the back of my mind. I saw Garth Hogan run at Teretonga down in Southland in the mid-1980s, and it was just like a heroin needle in the vein. It was, you know, I've got to do that Nitro thing. And I knew that I couldn't aspire to that level. That was a bit beyond my means. I took off over there to the States initially to buy parts for the 68 Camaro, and I decided to go along to a meeting at Vegas where they had these Nitro funny cars running, Nostalgia. And I was there watching it, and I just thought, oh my God, this is exactly what I want to be doing.
Karl hit the pits and the stars further aligned. A conversation with Bob Godfrey and his crew chief Wes Close turned to a motor they had up for grabs. The price was less than the list of parts Karl had eyed up for the alcohol motor for his Camaro. The ball was rolling.
So I ended up doing a deal to buy not only the original motor, which he referred to as a junker motor, and we still have it running today as the junker motor, but I bought the chassis and the race motor, the driveline, everything complete, less the body. At that stage, you couldn't just go and buy whatever type of body style that you wanted. There was two choices that were open on the market, and that was a Dodge Challenger or a Chevy Vega. And I thought, well, I'm not going to do a Dodge Challenger because I'm going to run a Chevy and I'll never hear the end of it. Stuck it on the car, shipped it out here, and been running it for 16 years and having a blast.
When Nitro Flashback hit our shores, it wasn't just the body style Kiwis weren't overly familiar with. It had been 15 odd years since nitromethane had powered a pass in New Zealand.
There was nothing in the rule book for running nitromethane at all, whether it be top fuel or funny car. It had one line on the page dedicated to it that said all competitors must comply with NHRA guidelines to be able to run their car. Well, that's the American standards. And rather than talk to somebody, I thought, okay, well, that's actually pretty simple. So when I had the car together in the States before I shipped it out, managed to get it teched at Bakersfield for top fuel funny car. Told nobody, shipped the car into the country, kept it absolutely top secret. Even the local guys in the town didn't know. And then I'd rang up the local track at Teretonga in Invercargill, probably the last place you'd expect to see something like that, and said to them, I'm going to bring my car out in the weekend. And they said, oh, that'd be great, because they're thinking of the Camaro, it's been a long time. Yeah, that's awesome. I said, well, it's a bit different. So I've got myself a Nitro funny car. And just silence. Silence on the phone. Most of the people there were looking at this thing like, what the hell is that? And we had no idea how to run it. Man, we were flying blind right from the start.
Powering the Vega is a 438 cube cast iron Chevy production block. No cooling system here. It's topped with 6.7-to-1 static compression cast iron heads. Up top sits an 871 supercharger delivering 28 pounds of boost. The gearbox? A 2-speed Lenco with a centrifugal 3-plate clutch which feeds a beefy Ford 9-inch. Karl reckons the funny car is good for 2,500 horsepower, maybe a bit more. You can chalk up around 1,000 of that to the Nitro. It's old school. Karl relies solely on an oil pressure gauge to keep check on things when he's in the seat. And truth be told, he doesn't spend much time looking at it. Understandable when he's running 6-second passes at over 200 miles an hour. Their data logger? A GoPro pointing at said oil pressure gauge.
So it's affected by ambient temperature. It's not just a straight physical mixture, like you don't put 20% nitro in a bucket and expect your mixture to be 20%, and it changes through the day. So you can mix it up in the morning, test it, and in the afternoon it's 10 points different. So it kind of sneaks up on you. And when you get up to the top end of running nitro, a few percentage of nitro can be the difference between a good hard run and torching stuff. So we've got to be vigilant on that constantly. Very aggressive. The nanosecond you squeeze that throttle, it's full on. So there's no progressive power delivery. It's like a switch on off. And particularly our car with the 1970s combination, there's not a lot of tunability in it. So it is very much a case of stab it and hang on. Drag motors and fuel injected motors are designed for wide open throttle. So you start feathering the throttle, that's when you get a backfire. And with nitromethane, when you get a backfire, it's actually an explosion. So the theory is that you hold it flat and swing on the brake as much as you can to kind of pull it straight. So sometimes you've got to lift, there's just no two ways about it, common sense prevails. But we always try to sort of hold it down, squeeze it and fight it through. It's like a wrestling match, man. You get to the other side, it's like you've been in a fight.
Even away from the strip, Nitro Flashback has plenty of fans in New Zealand. You wouldn't know Karl calls him for cargo home. The car is stored up north, and Karl and his crew are very regular sights, not only at events such as the Nostalgia Drags, but also the likes of Whangamata's Beach Hop.
People really respond to it. When you fire up a nitro car, it's just like a vacuum. People just come around, they can't wait to see it. And I think that really helps the sport in general, because it pulls in people who, you know, they've seen a fast car and everything, and maybe they've watched drag racing on TV, but man, you fire a nitro car, it's an assault on their senses, and they will never forget it. I love sharing it with people. We put someone in the seat every time we fire it up. I don't know how many people have been through that seat. Well over a couple of hundred people over the years have been through it. I have only sat in that car once when it was warmed up, and that was in the States when I bought it. So hopefully I've done my bit and got a few people sort of bums on seats, you know. That's what it's all about. I think everyone has a duty to do that.